Alex the Inventor in the Fantastic Scrapyard. Opening poem. The years have gone by. It's the 21st C. Exactly which year is a mystery to me. A fantastic scrapyard is slowly collected, filled with curious things we forgot and neglected. Things robotic, things full of wire, the kinds of things we inventors desire. Things not perfect, which may be made whole again as beautifully new and different inventions. Along comes a lad whose father flew far away, but he hopes to find him again someday. He works on his own with amazing machines, so he can finally solve the mystery of his dreams. But being alone doesn't make a happy end. He'll never fulfill his dreams without finding a friend. So sit back, dear reader, turn the first paper leaf. There's a fantastic scrapyard with a secret underneath. Chapter 1. Big Ben and the Boy. A blue-white light as bright as the sun flashed blindingly in the gloom of the evening. A whistling snap accompanied it, along with the low crackle of high-voltage electricity. Big Ben moved and worked slowly, but with great power. Again and again, the glaring star of searing light flashed and crackled, with molten hot drops popping away from it to glance off mighty arms or the heavy pieces of sheet metal that he easily held in each hand. Nothing matched his brawn, his tireless steel muscles as he held the two 50-pound steel plates at the proper angle while his third welder arm moved delicately along the thin gap between them. Slowly and precisely it moved, fusing the two heavy shaped pieces together with its superheated voltage, which arced off the long melting stick of a welding rod. There seemed to be a boy, a child actually, who was hunkered down in Big Ben's middle and following every move that he made with his mighty steel arms. This was rather odd for the monster to accept, but he grudgingly allowed the boy to remain there while he carried on with his task at hand. Every so often, Big Ben stopped working, even though he would rather not, and the boy would stop too and get out of his large metal belly and walk over to a workbench where he bent over paper plans of some sort. Big Ben waited, patient and still, with the two heavy metal plates clamped firmly in his vice hands. The boy was rather thin and gangly, perhaps 12 years old, with long brownish hair falling over his eyes as he read over some technical blueprints which lay before him. Big Ben allowed this behavior to continue, with the boy hopping in and out of him at regular intervals to check a measurement or mutter to himself about a wiring connection. At every move he made, Big Ben felt the thin lad manipulate small, flexible hand controls within him and push foot pedals as well. This was slightly worrisome for Big Ben. Could it be that the small weakling of a boy was actually causing him to move? Big Ben's silent question went unanswered though, while his powerful hydraulic arms worked tirelessly on. A noisy, clattering pump kept the black fluid that was his lifeblood flowing strongly through high-pressure hydraulic lines. They ran through his massive arms like rubbery veins, with the pressurized blood filling each piston cylinder at the proper time in order that an arm could move and bend to pick up another heavy object. Big Ben never grew weary of his work. In fact, he could continue indefinitely, being a robot. The boy within him did seem to be tiring though, so Big Ben slowed his movements courteously so the lad could keep up with him. A small pile of short, spent welding rods had collected on the cement floor of the workshop, along with rusty pieces of discarded scrap iron and welding slag beads. It seemed that the day had long since ended, yet still the young boy and Big Ben labored on. Finally, his mighty arms dropped limply at his side, and the huge robot wondered why he couldn't lift them. Not even as much as a twitch. A soft weeping sound seemed to be coming from inside him, and Big Ben sat there listening, dumbly, not knowing what to make of the strange sound. The boy stumbled out of Big Ben and shuffled slowly over to the workbench, but this time he slumped down on a little wooden stool and lay with his head in his arms over the musty, wrinkled blueprints. Quietly he rested there, still weeping softly. A single word came faintly back to Big Ben where he stood stiff and still in the deepening shadows of the nightfall. "Dad," the boy whispered. "Oh, Dad, why did you have to go away?" Then all was truly silent in the workshop, save for the boy's soft, deep breathing as he fell asleep there. Not too long afterward, the door to the shed creaked open and another person entered. Big Ben stood guard nearby, but he felt that nothing needed to be feared from the intruder. The larger person quietly took the boy in her arms and kissed his tired, weary little brow. "There, there, Alex," she whispered. "That's enough work for today, son." The single, bare light bulb went out as the workshop door clattered shut for the night, and Big Ben, the large, powerful construction bot, stood silent and dumb, arms hanging at his sides, while outside, crickets filled the still country night with their communal song. The machine that he and the lad were working on was the strangest looking thing Big Ben had yet seen in his many years of duty. A circular-shaped vehicle of some sort was slowly taking form in the boy's workshop, and it had a single pilot seat in the very center of the saucer. It was truly a sleek-looking craft, built for extreme velocity both in and out of the atmosphere. Puzzling, thought the silently waiting robot. He had sat rusting and abandoned deep in the junk and trash of the scrapyard until being found by the boy who generously repaired Big Ben so he could see duty again in his aged, advanced years. The young human was clearly an inventive sort, with an assortment of various other fascinating devices and machines in his shop. Yet this particular saucer craft, which sat half-finished, seemed to command a keener concentration from the boy than had his other ingenious projects. The cricket songs continued through the quiet autumn night in a soft, undisturbed chorus, and Big Ben remained where he had been left for the day. He was, in reality, not much more than a simple-minded bulldozer, yet his dim perceptions and massive machine pride blinded him to the fact that the boy, not he, was the actual controller of his actions. The crickets droned on until the witching hour approached. Then one by one they fell silent till all became quiet outside. A mild night wind restlessly rustled the lazy branches of the surrounding trees and tangled underbrush which hid the boy's home from the scrapyard beyond the fence. An uneasy silence hung over the countryside which, it seemed, would not allow the night to complete its dark hours toward the dawn until something significant was begun, or perhaps finished. The silence remained so for another half hour until a new sound interrupted all else and drifted to the robot in the cool night air. The sound was like that of a small bell being tapped by silver, and it came from not far away, out in the scrapyard, just outside the workshop door. It was where Big Ben and his little companion went in search of new parts and pieces to the machine they were building. Another sound from much farther away replied to the first clear notes of the tiny bell in much the same fashion. A furtive scuttling of little legs was heard just outside the door, and Big Ben, for all his power, tensed once more in the dark corner. Legs, the little scavenger robot that the boy had built himself, sat beside Big Ben in total sleep mode, unaware of what was happening. All was silent again for a few more moments. Then, quite suddenly, there was a vicious exchange of small, sharp explosions, and for a brief second the darkness was replaced by a bright blue flashlight that penetrated through the cracks in the walls of the workshop. Something had hunted, and something else had died just outside that door, and from somewhere far away in the scrapyard, a child gave a triumphant cry as a warrior from long ages past would have done after defeating a sworn enemy. As midnight approached, something among the stars shining down on the small town of Delta moved ever so slightly, and it was not a star.